The basement wasn't locked. That's the first thing people ask when I tell them about it. They assume there was a reason. We couldn't go down there. A chain, a padlock, some obvious warning sign. We ignored their WAS and single quotes. The door worked fine. That was the problem. We moved into the house in late October, just as the weather started turning cold. It was older than anything we'd lived in before. The kind of place that creaked when it settled and sighed when the heat kicked on. 2 stories. Narrow hallway, steep staircase, and a basement door at the end of the kitchen. It blended in at first, painted the same dull off-white as the walls. Simple handle, no window. Easy to forget if you weren't looking for it, but you always knew it was there, even when you weren't thinking about it. The realtor mentioned the basement like it was an afterthought. Plenty of storage space, she said, already moving on to the next room. Old houses always have them. She didn't offer to open the door, neither did we ask. On move-in day, we noticed something small. The basement door didn't slam shut, no matter how hard you pushed it. It always closed slowly, stopping just before the latch caught. You had to give it an extra nudge to make sure it stayed closed. At first it felt like a quirk, old hinges, warped frame, nothing worth worrying about. We told ourselves we'd deal with it later. Later came and went. The kitchen became our most used room. Morning coffee, late night snacks, quiet conversations when the rest of the house slept. Every time we passed the basement door, there was a faint draft. Cold, not strong. Just enough to notice if you stood still. We never opened it. Not because we were afraid, because we didn't need to. The house had plenty of storage. Upstairs, closets, cabinets, an attic that felt cramped but usable. There was no reason to go down there, so we didn't. That's when the habit started forming, unspoken ones. We'd check the door in passing. A quick glance, a subtle pause, making sure it was still closed. I noticed it first at night. I'd come into the kitchen for water and feel that same faint chill near the door. I'd look down and see the handle perfectly still. The seam between the door and frame tight and even. Closed, always closed. Except sometimes it didn't feel that way. There were nights when I stood in the dark kitchen, glass in hand, and felt like the space behind that door was larger than it should have been. Not physically, conceptually, like it wasn't just a room beneath the house, but a continuation of something that didn't quite belong to the rest of the layout. I told myself that was ridiculous. Basements are like that. You grow up hearing stories. Dark spaces, old stairs, smells of damp concrete and forgotten things. Your brain fills in gaps whether you want it to or not. Still, I started double-checking the latch before bed, just in case. My partner noticed a dot, not the feeling, the habit. You always check that door, she said one night, half smiling, just making sure it's shut, I replied. She shrugged. Creepy old houses. That was the end of the conversation. We never talked about the basement beyond that, never joked about it, never asked what the other thought might be down there. It stayed unspoken, like acknowledging it would make it harder to ignore. There were no sounds at first, no footsteps, no banging, pipes, nothing dramatic, just the normal noises of a house settling into the night. But there was something else, something quieter. Sometimes, late at night, I'd wake up with the sense that the house had shifted, not moved, adjusted, like the space beneath us was paying attention to how we used the rooms above it. I'd lie there, listening, the refrigerator hum, the distant click of cooling metal, and underneath it all, a hollow stillness that felt patient. I never dreamed about the basement. That stood out later. People usually dream about the things that scare them. This felt different, like the house didn't want me. Imagining what was below, the door stayed closed. Days passed, weeks, almost a month. That's why, when I found it open for the first time, my first thought wasn't fear, it was confusion, because I would have sworn I had checked it the night before. I noticed it in the morning. That detail matters. If it had been at night, I might have dismissed it as exhaustion or shadows playing tricks on me. But morning light has a way of stripping excuses down to nothing. I walked into the kitchen, barefoot, half awake, already thinking about coffee. That's when I felt the cold. It wasn't the usual faint draft. It was stronger, sharpened, the kind of cold that doesn't spread evenly, but clings low to the floor, wrapping around your ankles like something deliberate. I stopped walking. The basement door was open, not wide, just enough, a few inches, enough to see the darkness beyond it, untouched by the morning light filling the kitchen, enough to know it hadn't been like that when we went to bed. My first instinct was irritation, not fear, annoyance, the kind you feel when something is out of place in a house you're still learning. Told myself one of us must have forgotten to latch it properly. Old hinges, old frame, easy explanation. Still, I didn't step closer right away. I stood there longer than necessary, staring at the gap. The air coming from below smelled different, not musty, not moldy, just stale, like a room that hadn't been opened in a very long time. I called out my partner's name. No response. She was still asleep upstairs. I reached for the handle. The moment my fingers wrapped around it, a strange hesitation washed over me. Not fear, recognition. Like my body remembered. Something my mind didn't. I pushed the door shut. It moved smoothly, without resistance. Too smoothly, no. Sticking, no. Catching, no. Catching it closed completely on the first try. The latch clicked. The cold faded almost. Immediately the kitchen felt normal again. I stood there, hands still on the handle, waiting for something else to happen. Nothing did. When my partner came down later, I didn't mention it right away. I watched her move through the kitchen, barefoot like I had, stepping right over the spot where the cold had pooled. Earlier, she didn't react, didn't slow down, didn't notice a thing. "Did you go into the basement last night?" I asked casually. She looked at me, confused. "No," she said. "Why?" I shrugged. "Door was open this morning." She frowned slightly. "That's weird." Then she turned back to the coffee maker. Conversation over. I told myself that was enough. Old house, old house, old door, mystery solved. But the rest of the day felt off. Not dramatically, just small things. The kitchen stayed colder than the rest of the house. Even with the heat on, the smell lingered faintly. No matter how many windows we opened, and every time I passed a basement door, I felt the urge to check the latch again. That night, I paid attention. I made sure the door was fully closed. I pressed it until the latch clicked firmly. I stood there for a moment longer than necessary, listening. Nothing, no sound from below, no movement, we went to bed. The house settled around us. The night passed quietly. I woke up around 2:30 a.m. Not from a sound, from the absence of one. The house was too quiet. No hum from the refrigerator, no distant traffic, no ticking pipes, just a deep, hollow stillness that felt heavier than sleep. I lay there, staring into the darkness, heart beating faster than it should have. Told myself it was nothing, just one of those moments, when your body wakes up before your brain. Then I heard it, a soft sound from below, not a banged on, not footsteps, just a faint shift, like something settling into place. I held my breath. Listened. The sound didn't repeat, didn't wake my partner. I didn't get up. I lay there until sleep finally dragged me under again. In the morning, the basement door was closed perfectly. No gap, no cold air, no smell. I should have felt relieved. Instead, a single thought settled uncomfortably into my mind. The door hadn't opened itself. It had been closed again, and whatever was down there had learned exactly how hard to push it. After that morning, I stopped trusting the quiet, not openly, not consciously, but every time the house fell still, my attention drifted back to the kitchen, to the end of the hallway, to the place where the basement door waited. It stayed, closed for 3 days, perfectly closed, so closed that I started to feel foolish for ever thinking it had moved on its own. I almost convinced myself I'd imagined the whole thing, almost, on the 4th night. My partner went to bed early. I stayed up on the couch, scrolling through my phone, half watching a show I couldn't tell you the plot of now. The house made its usual noises, the soft click of cooling metal, the distant rush of water in pipes, the hum of the refrigerator kicking on and off. Normal sounds, comforting ones at some point. I noticed something missing, the hum. I muted the TV and listened. The refrigerator was silent, not broken, paused. That was when I smelled it again, that stale, airless scent, stronger this time. I didn't want to get up. I sat there longer than I should have, heart beating slowly, deliberately, as if rushing would only make things worse. Eventually, I stood. The kitchen light was off. The hallway was dark. The basement door stood at the end, like a vertical shadow against the wall. It was open, wider than before, not inches, feet, enough that the darkness behind it spilled into the kitchen, swallowing the edge of the floor cold. Air poured out, not drifting, pouring. I stopped several steps away. My feet refused to move any closer. The smell was unmistakable now. Not rot, not dampness, just old, as if the air itself had been waiting. Untouched. Did you go down there? I called quietly. No answer. I turned on the kitchen light. The yellow glow barely touched the darkness beyond the doorway. It stopped halfway down the stairs, like the basement absorbed light instead of reflecting. It tart. I could see the first few steps, wooden, worn, steeper than I remembered. Realized something then that made my stomach twists. I didn't remember the stairs at all. We'd lived there for over a month, and I couldn't picture what the basement actually looked like. I reached for the door. My hand hovered inches from the handle. Waited for fear, for panic, for some instinctive warning. What I felt instead was hesitation so deep it felt physical, like crossing a line that couldn't be uncrossed. I pushed the door shut. Slowly, that hinges didn't creak. The door didn't resist it. Closed as if it wanted to. The latch clicked softly into place. The cold stopped instantly. The smell vanished. The refrigerator hummed back to life. Stood there in the kitchen, breathing hard, listening to the house reset itself. Nothing else happened, no sounds from below, no movement, no reaction. That scared me more than if something had. I locked the door that night, not a basement lock, a deadbolt we used for the back door. I installed it myself, drilling into the frame until my hands ached. When I finished, the door felt solid. Final, I stood back and nodded to myself. Satisfied, we went to bed. The night passed without incident. No sounds, no waking, no dreams. I almost forgot about it. Almost the next morning, the deadbolt was unlocked, not broken, not forced, just turned. The basement door was open, wider than before, and this time, the stairs were no longer empty. Asterisk, I didn't step closer right away. I stood in the hallway, gripping the doorframe so hard my fingers hurt, staring at the stairs like they might change if I blinked. They didn't. Something was resting on them, not blocking the staircase, not filling it, just there. At first, my mind refused to identify it. It treated the shape like clutter. A box, a bundle of old clothes, something misplaced during the move. But the longer I stared, the more that explanation fell apart. It wasn't an object. It had weight. The way it pressed down on the step told me that the wood beneath it bowed slightly, creaking under a pressure that hadn't been there before. I took one step closer. The air grew colder, not evenly. The cold pooled around the stairs, sinking downward like it belonged there. The shape didn't move. It didn't react. It didn't acknowledge me at all. I realized then that whatever it was, it hadn't come up the stairs. It had been placed there. Hello. I called. My voice sounded thin and unfamiliar. It didn't echo. The sound died the moment it reached the doorway. I flicked the light switch at the top of the stairs. Nothing happened. I tried. Again, still nothing. The hallway light behind me flickered. The basement light, if there even was one, stayed dark. I noticed details then, small ones. The shape wasn't touching the wall. There was a narrow gap between it and the concrete, like it had been positioned carefully, centered, balanced. I couldn't see edges clearly, just a vague outline that seemed to absorb the dim light instead of reflecting it. No texture, no color, just presence. I felt an overwhelming urge to push the door shut, to put distance between myself and whatever was below. I reached for the handle. The shape shifted, not toward me, not away, just adjusted, like something resettling its weight. The stair creaked. Again, louder this time. I froze. Every instinct screamed at me not to move, not to speak, not to draw attention. The shape went still. Seconds passed, then more. Nothing else happened. I closed the door, slowly, without taking my eyes off the stairs until the darkness swallowed them. The latch clicked. The deadbolt turned with a solid, final sound. I backed away from the door. My legs felt weak, My heart hammered so hard, I was sure it would wake my partner. I didn't tell her. Not then. I didn't trust my voice. That day, I stayed home. I sat in the living room, listening to the house breathe. Everything seemed normal, almost too normal. The basement door didn't move. The deadbolt stayed locked. The house made its usual sounds. That night, we ate dinner like nothing was wrong. We talked about work, about errands, about things that didn't matter. I checked the basement door before bed. Locked, secure, silent. Sometime after midnight, I woke up not suddenly, gradually, like something was pulling me out of sleep, piece by piece. By piece, I lay still, listening. The house was quiet then. I heard it, a soft sound. From below, not footsteps, not scraping, something gentler, like fingers brushing against wood. The sound traveled upward, slowly, carefully, one step at a time. I held my breath. The sound stopped. Then came the final noise, so subtle I almost missed it. The quiet click of a latch being tested. I lay there in the dark, heart pounding, knowing with absolute certainty whatever was in the basement now understood the door, and it was learning how long it took us to notice. After that night, I stopped thinking of the basement as a room. Rooms are passive. They wait. The basement didn't wait anymore. The sounds started small, so small that at first I wasn't sure they were new. Old houses make noise. Pipes knock. Floorboards shift. Heat expands and contracts. That's what I told myself. That's what I needed to believe. It began with timing. I'd walk across the living room, and a second later I'd hear a soft knock from below. Not loud, not aggressive, just acknowledgement, like something responding after confirming I was there at first. It happened once a day, then twice. Then whenever we moved around upstairs for too long, I tested it one afternoon. While my partner was at work, I stood perfectly still in the kitchen, no shifting my weight, no breathing through my mouth, no movement at all. The house went quiet, too quiet. I waited, minutes. Passed nothing, then I took one step. A faint sound echoed from below, not directly beneath me, offset, as if it had moved to match my position. My stomach tightened. I took another step. Another sound, closer. I backed away slowly, heart pounding, until I was standing as far from the basement door as possible. The sound stopped. That was the moment I understood something terrible. The basement wasn't just making noise, it was listening. That evening, I told my partner, not everything, just enough. I mentioned the sounds, the door, the cold air. I didn't mention the shape on the stairs. I didn't mention the fingers. Some things don't sound real once spoken aloud. She tried to laugh it off. Probably mice, she said, or raccoons. Old houses get them all the time. I nodded. I let her believe it. That night, the sounds got closer, not louder, more precise. We sat on the couch, watching television. Volume low. The floor creaked beneath us. Then, beneath that, a matching creak, perfectly timed. My partner frowned. Did you hear that? I swallowed. Yeah, the creak came again. Not random, not settling. It followed the rhythm of our movements shift. Pause. Lean. Respond. She muted the TV. The house fell silent. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then a soft dragging sound came from below. Slow, measured, like something being pulled gently across concrete. My partner stood up. "I'm calling someone tomorrow," she said. "An inspector, or an exterminator." I didn't argue. I knew it wouldn't help. That night, I dreamed of stairs, endless ones, going down farther than the house could possibly contain. Each step creaked when I placed my foot on it, but the sound always came before I moved. I woke up with my heart racing. The house was quiet, too quiet again. The next day, the sounds followed us everywhere. Kitchen, hallway, bedroom, always below, always delayed by just a second. By afternoon, I noticed something worse when we stood still. The basement didn't go silent anymore. It made small noises of its own, as if it were restless, as if stillness above confused it. I heard it then, clearer than before. Breathing, not loud, not labored, slow, patient. It came from directly beneath the basement door. I didn't tell my partner that part. I couldn't that night as we lay in bed. The breathing continued through the floor, through the walls, through the silence, and then something new, a single step upward. Asterisk. The step didn't repeat right away. That was the worst part. If it had continued, if something had rushed the stairs or slammed into the door, I could have reacted. Panic has rules. You run, you shout, you wake the house. This was different. This was waiting. I lay still in bed, staring into the darkness, listening to my partner's breathing beside me. She hadn't woken up. The sound beneath the floor was too quiet to deliberate, to trigger anything instinctive. I counted seconds, 10, 20, 30, nothing. Then another step. Closer. The wood groaned softly, like it had been tested and approved. My heart hammered. I wanted to wake her. I wanted to whisper her name. I wanted anything that made me feel less alone with the sound. I didn't do any of it. Something told me noise was exactly what it wanted. The sound stopped again. Longer this time. The house settled around it, as if even the walls were holding their breath. I realized then that it wasn't climbing blindly. It was listening. I shifted slightly beneath the blanket. The fabric whispered almost immediately. There was a faint scrape below, something adjusting its weight. Matching me, I froze. The scrape stopped. Minutes passed. I don't know how many. Time stretched thin, pulled taut by anticipation. Then came a sound I hadn't heard before, a soft knock. Not on the door, on the underside of the floor, directly beneath the bedroom. 3 taps, slow, evenly spaced. My partner stirred. "Did you hear that?" she murmured, half asleep. Double quotes, "Yes," I whispered. My voice sounded wrong to my own ears. The tapping stopped. Silence returned too quickly. I waited. Nothing happened. Eventually, exhaustion dragged us back under. Morning came like it always did. Light through the curtains. Traffic outside. Birds on the fence. The house looked exactly the same. That felt impossible. I checked the basement. Door dots still locked. Deadbolt. Untouched. No marks. No scratches. No signs of movement. The relief I felt was sharp enough to hurt. For a moment, I let myself believe it had been a dream. Then, I noticed something new. The floor in front of the basement door was Warm, not room temperature. Warmer, as if heat were rising from below instead of sinking. That afternoon, my partner went out to run errands. I stayed home. I wanted to listen. I sat in the living room, feet on the coffee table, heart beating steadily, waiting for the house to speak. It didn't take long. A sound came from below, not directly beneath me. To my left, then another. To my right, movement, slow, careful, deliberate. I stood, the sound paused. I took a step, the sound followed. Moved toward the kitchen, it moved beneath me. I stopped. It stopped. I whispered. No. The word felt foolish the moment I said it. The sound didn't respond. It didn't need to. Later that evening, we sat at the table eating dinner. Neither of us spoke much. The clink of silverware felt too loud halfway through the meal. My partner's fork froze mid-air. Do you feel that? She asked. Feel what? I said. She pressed her foot to the floor. It's warm. The sound came then, clearer than ever. Hand pressing against the underside of the floor, not pounding, not scratching. Just resting there, holding the floorboard creaked softly beneath the pressure. My partner's face went pale. That's not an animal, she whispered. I shook my head. No, I said. It's not. The pressure lifted. The warmth faded. The house went still that night. We didn't sleep. We sat together in the living room, lights on, listening to the house breathe. Sometime after midnight, the basement door rattled once, not violently, just enough to announce intent. I understood then. The sounds weren't random. They weren't exploratory. They were practice. Whatever was below wasn't trying to scare us. It was learning the house, learning us. And it had begun to map the space above. We didn't talk about leaving, not at first. The idea hovered between us, unspoken, like if we named it too early, the house would hear. Instead, we did what people always do when something is wrong, but not yet undeniable. We tried to manage it. We slept upstairs with the lights on. We kept the basement door locked at all times. We avoided the kitchen at night, and for a while that seemed to work. The sounds didn't stop, but they softened. Less movement, more stillness. Like whatever was below was adjusting to our adjustments. 3 nights passed without incident. No warmth in the floor, no tapping, no footsteps. The house felt tense, but quiet. On the 4th night, I woke up to the sound of my partner whispering my name. Hey, she said softly, wake up. I turned toward her, heart already racing. What is it? She pointed toward the bedroom door. I hear something, she said. At first I heard nothing. Then a sound I hadn't heard before, a slow, careful creak. Not beneath us, not below the basement, above. On the stairs. I sat up slowly, listening. The creak came again. Higher this time. My partner's hand tightened around my arm. That's not the basement, she whispered. No, I said quietly. It's not. The sound stopped. We waited. The house seemed to lean inward. Then came the softest sound yet. A breath. Not from below. From the hallway, I reached for my phone and turned. On the flashlight, the beam cut through the darkness, trembling slightly as my hand shook. We stepped into the hallway together. The air felt different there, warmer, thicker. The light reached the top of the stairs. Nothing there. I lowered the beam slowly, step by step. The light revealed the worn wood, the scuffed edges, the curve of the railing halfway down. The beam faltered, not because my hand moved, because the light didn't reflect. Something was standing there, not blocking the stairs, not filling them, just occupying space. I couldn't see details. The shape swallowed the light, like it didn't want to be understood all at once. It was tall, taller than either of us, and too still. My partner gasped quietly. "Oh my God," she whispered. The shape didn't move, it didn't breathe, it didn't sway. It stood at the bottom of the stairs, exactly where the light stopped reaching, as if it knew where darkness began. I took a step back. The shape didn't follow. It didn't need to. The basement door creaked behind it, slowly opening wider. Cold air poured upward. The smell returned. That same stale, untouched scent. The shape tilted, not its head, the whole mass of it, like something adjusting its balance. I turned off the flashlight. I don't know why. Instinct. Maybe. The moment the light disappeared, the presence felt closer. My partner whimpered. I grabbed her hand and pulled her backward. Away from the stairs, away from the darkness. The house creaked. Not settling, responding. We backed into the bedroom and shut the door, locked it, pressed the dresser against it until the wood groaned. We stood there in the dark, listening, waiting for footsteps, waiting for the stairs to creak again, waiting for the door handle to turn. Nothing happened. Minutes passed. Then more. The house went still again. Eventually, dawn light crept through the window. The silence held when we finally opened the bedroom door. The hallway was empty. The stairs were empty. The basement door was closed, locked, but the smell lingered and the air on the stairs was still warm. We didn't go to work that day. We didn't leave the house. We sat together on the couch, staring at the hallway, knowing something had changed. The presence wasn't below us anymore. It knew how to come up. Asterisk, we didn't sleep after that. We sat on opposite ends of the couch, with the lights on, backs straight, eyes fixed on the hallway. Every creak of the house felt intentional now, like the structure itself was participating. Morning arrived slowly, too slowly, when daylight finally filled the house. It didn't bring relief, it only made everything look exposed. The stairs were empty, the basement door was closed, the deadbolt still locked, nothing appeared disturbed. And that was the worst part. We checked everything, every room, every closet, every door and window. Nothing out of place, nothing missing, nothing added. I think it was testing us. My partner said quietly. I didn't ask what she meant. I already knew. The house felt different after that night. Not colder, not louder, just aware. We stopped using the stairs entirely, unless absolutely necessary. We avoided the hallway whenever possible. The kitchen became a place we rushed through, not lingered in. The basement door became the center of the house, not physically, but psychologically oriented around it. That afternoon, I noticed something strange. The doorframe around the basement entrance was warm, not just the floor, the frame itself, like heat was bleeding through the wood. I pressed my palm against it. The warmth pulsed, subtle, rhythmic. I pulled my hand back immediately. My skin tingled where it had touched the frame that evening. As we sat in the living room, the television flickered. Not the signal, the screen itself dimmed slightly. Then the sound dropped out silence. The basement door clicked. Not opened, just acknowledged. We froze. The click came again. This time, the handle moved, not turning, just testing. My partner whispered, "It knows we're here." I swallowed. I know. The handle went still. Seconds passed, then minutes. I stood slowly. Every muscle in my body screamed not to, but something else. Pressed harder, the need to understand. I stepped into the hallway. The air felt thick, like wading through water. I stopped several feet from the basement door. "Don't," my partner whispered behind me. I didn't turn around. The handle turned. Slowly, deliberately. The latch clicked. The door cracked open. Cold air spilled out. The smell rose. Again, stale. Untouched, patient. I didn't shine a light. I didn't speak. I just watched. Something shifted behind the door. Not stepping out. Not yet. Just enough to remind me it was there. Then a sound, a breath. Right behind the door, I stumbled back. My partner grabbed my arm and pulled me into the living room. We slammed the door shut and locked it again. The deadbolt slid into place with a solid thunk. The basement door didn't protest. It didn't rattle. It didn't resist. Instead, there was a soft sound from the other side. A knock. 1, 2, 3. Perfectly timed. We stood frozen. Listening, the knocking stopped. Then something pressed against the door. Not hard, not violently, just enough to bow the wood inward slightly. The pressure stayed. Minutes passed. Finally, it lifted. The warmth faded. The smell receded. The house went quiet again that night. Neither of us spoke. We packed bags in silence, not clothes, essentials, documents, things that mattered. We planned to leave in the morning, at dawn. As I carried the bags toward the front door, I noticed something new. The basement door was open, wide, and the stairs were empty. We didn't leave that morning, not because we changed our minds, because the house didn't let us. The front door opened easily enough. The lock clicked. The handle turned. Everything worked exactly the way it should have, but the air beyond the threshold felt wrong, heavy, pressurized, like stepping out would require more effort than our bodies were prepared to give. I stood there with my hand on the doorframe, bags at my feet, staring out at the quiet street. Nothing looked unusual. Cars parked where they always did. The sky pale and clear. A neighbor's dog barking somewhere down the block. Normal to normal. Are we really doing this? My partner asked, behind me. Double quotes. Yes, I said, without turning around. We're leaving. I stepped forward and stopped. It felt like walking into resistance. Not a wall, not pain, just density, like the air itself had thickened the moment I crossed the doorway. I took another step. My legs felt heavy, uncooperative. My partner tried next. She reached the doorway, hesitated, then stepped forward and recoiled. "What the hell?" she whispered. We backed into the house together, shutting the door behind us. The moment it closed, the pressure vanished. The air returned to normal. We stared at each other. Neither of us spoke. We didn't need to. That was when the basement door creaked. Not loud, not sudden, just enough to remind us it was open. Don't know who said it first. We have to seal it. Maybe it was both of us at the same time. The logic made sense. The basement was the source, the boundary, if we could close it, really close it. Maybe we could buy time. Maybe we could weaken whatever was inside. We started with the door. We reinforced the deadbolt with a second lock, then a third. We screwed heavy brackets into the frame, metal biting into old wood. Every drill sound echoed too loudly through the house. The basement stayed quiet. That scared me more than if it hadn't. We dragged furniture from the living room. A bookshelf, the couch, the old dining table. We stacked them against the basement door until the hallway was nearly impassable. The door disappeared behind layers of wood and weight. I stepped back, breathing hard, sweat cooling on my skin. "There," I said. "It won't open now." The house answered with a creak. From below, not protesting, acknowledging. We moved faster. After that, we sealed vents, covered cracks, stuffed towels into every gap along the floor. Anything to block airflow. Anything to block presence. The smell didn't fade. It lingered, patient. By afternoon, we were exhausted. The hallway was unrecognizable. The basement door was buried. The house felt tense, like something held in place too tightly. We sat on the living room floor, backs against the wall, watching the barricade. Minutes passed, then an hour. Nothing happened. Hope crept in, small, fragile, dangerous. Then the floor, vibrated. Not violently, not suddenly, a slow, deep tremor, like weight shifting far below. The bookshelf groaned. One of the brackets squealed softly. My partner grabbed my hand. "It's pushing," she whispered. "No," I said, though I wasn't sure. "It's just settling." The pressure stopped. The house went still. Again, we waited. 5 minutes, 10, nothing else moved. I almost believed we'd succeeded. Then a sound came from behind the wall of furniture, a sound that wasn't wood or metal, a slow inhale, right behind the door. The inhale didn't come again right away. It lingered, held as if whatever was behind the door wanted us to understand that it could breathe there. Now, neither of us moved. The barricade stood firm. The locks held. The door didn't budge. For a moment, it almost felt like control. Then the exhale came. Warm, slow, deliberate. It pushed through the cracks we hadn't managed to seal. It slid between the towels, through the seams of the doorframe. Across the floor, the smell thickened instantly. Not rot, not decay, just old, like air that had never been meant to circulate above ground. The furniture shifted, not pushed, adjusted. The bookshelf creaked as if something behind it had leaned closer. My partner whispered, "It's not trying to get out." I nodded slowly. "It's making room." I said. The floor vibrated again, stronger this time. The sound didn't come from the basement door. It came from everywhere. The walls groaned. The ceiling creaked. The house responded like a single body adjusting its weight. Something knocked behind the door. Not 3 times, not rhythmically, just once. Heavy, final. One of the brackets snapped. Metal shrieked as it tore from the wood. Bookshelf shifted several inches outward, scrambled backward. Heart pounding. The door behind the barricade didn't open. It didn't need to. A new sound filled the hallway. Creak. From beneath our feet. The floorboard near the hallway wall bowed upward slightly, just enough to be noticeable. My partner gasped. "Not pushing through the door," she said. "No," I replied. "It doesn't have to." Another floorboard creaked closer. The house wasn't a container anymore. It was a passage, the smell spread through the living room, then the bedroom, then the bathroom. There was no direction to it now, no source. It was everywhere at once. We retreated to the far end of the house, locked ourselves in the bedroom, pushed furniture against the door, sat on the bed. Shaking, the house didn't follow. It didn't rush it, didn't make noise. It waited. Minutes passed. Then an hour. The pressure eased. Slightly, the vibrations stopped. I almost relaxed. Then, the bedroom door handle twitched just once. Not turning. Testing. My partner pressed her face into my shoulder. Breathing fast, I stared at the door. Heart pounding, the handle went still. A soft sound came from the wall beside the bed. Not knocking, not scratching. A shift like something settling in behind the drywall. I whispered, "It's inside the house now." There was no answer, not from my partner, not from the house. Morning came again, reluctantly when daylight filled the bedroom. We opened the door slowly. The hallway was clear. The barricade still stood, but something had changed. The walls looked wrong. Not damaged, not marked, just subtly uneven, like the angles no longer agreed on where space should end. The basement door remained closed, still sealed, still locked, still buried, but the warmth in the floor had spread. Every room felt slightly heated from below. We didn't try to leave. Again, we didn't need to. We already knew. The basement wasn't something you could shut away. It wasn't a place. It was expanding. By the third morning, the house had stopped pretending. There were no more sudden sounds, no testing knocks, no shifting weight beneath the floor. Instead, there was a constant presence, a low ambient awareness that never left. No matter where we stood, the warmth beneath the floors remained not uncomfortable, not obvious, just enough to feel when you paid attention, like the house was breathing from below. We didn't speak much. There was nothing left to plan. No more ceiling, no more listening, no more hoping the night would pass quietly. The house had already adjusted. I noticed it first in the mirrors. We didn't go to the attic right away. We stood in the hallway for a long time, staring up at the open hatch, listening to the soft drift of cold air spilling down from above. It felt deliberate, like the house was offering us an alternative. "I think it wants us to choose," my partner said. Her voice didn't shake, neither did mine when I answered, "I think it already chose." We packed slowly, not because we had time, because rushing felt wrong. The house had punished urgency before. It rewarded patience, adjustment, acceptance. The warmth beneath the floors followed us as we moved from room to room, not aggressively, just present, like a tide that no longer needed to rise. When we reached the hallway again, the basement door creaked, not opening, just settling, as if acknowledging our movement away from it. We climbed the ladder into the attic together. The wood groaned under our weight, but it held above us. The space was unfinished. Exposed beams, dust, insulation packed between rafters, and something else, scratches, not random, not clawed, measured, running along the beams in long, careful lines. Tall marks. Far too tall. My partner swallowed hard. "They went up," she whispered. I nodded. "They didn't go through," I said. "They went around." We closed the hatch behind us the moment it shut. The warmth below faded, not vanished, withdrawn. The attic felt colder, lighter, empty, in a way that felt temporary. We sat there through the afternoon, through the evening, listening, waiting for the house to react. It dear no knocks, no movement, no pressure. The silence felt earned at sunset. Something shifted, not beneath us, around us. The walls creaked softly, not the sharp sound of stress, the low, even sound of release. The house exhaled. We felt it then. The basement wasn't expanding anymore. It was settling. My phone buzzed once. No notification, just a vibration. Then nothing. When night fell, we climbed back down carefully, prepared for resistance. The hallway was unchanged, the basement door still buried behind the barricade, the warmth faint, contained. Again, but the attic hatch stayed open. That's when I understood the final truth. The basement wasn't meant to be sealed forever. It wasn't meant to be empty. It was meant to be fed space. The house wasn't haunted. It was balanced, and we had disturbed that balance by living entirely above it. Moved out a week later, quietly. No explanations, no inspections, no listings. The house sold fast. It always does. Old houses like that attract people who want charm, history, depth. Sometimes, late at night, I still wake up thinking about it. Not the shape, not the sounds, the design. A house built to redirect something. Downward, then upward, then outward. I wonder how long it stays content after someone leaves. How long before it needs adjustment again. If you ever live in a house with a basement no one uses, a door that never quite latches, a space everyone avoids without knowing why, pay attention. Some rooms aren't empty. They're waiting, not reflections, doing anything wrong, just delayed the slightest hesitation before matching our movements. If I turned my head quickly, my reflection followed a fraction of a second later than it should have. My partner noticed it in the walls. She pressed her ear against the drywall once, curiosity getting the better of her. She pulled away immediately, face pale. "It sounds like a room," she whispered. I didn't ask what she meant. I already knew. The smell never fully went away. Now it didn't concentrate in one place. It didn't announce itself. It existed evenly throughout the house, like it had always belonged there. We tried to call for help. That was the last thing we attempted. The phone worked. The signal was strong. The call connected. But every time we tried to explain, every time we mentioned the basement or the house or the feeling beneath the words stopped making sense. Not to them, to us. We'd start a sentence and lose it halfway through. Forget what we were saying. Replace it with something harmless, something normal. "I think we just need an inspection," my partner said once, phone in hand, voice distant. She hung up and stared at the screen like it had betrayed her. "I didn't tell them," she said quietly. I couldn't. That night, I went back to the hallway alone. I don't know why. Curiosity. Maybe, or acceptance. The barricade still stood unmoved, untouched, pointless. I placed my hand against the wall. Beside the basement door, the warmth was stronger. There, not hot, alive. I closed my eyes And for the first time, I understood the basement hadn't been empty when we moved in. It had been contained. The house wasn't haunted. It was built around something, built to keep something below whatever had lived there before us, had known. They'd understood the purpose of the space, the thickness of the walls, the steepness of the stairs, the door that never quite latched on its own. The basement hadn't opened itself, it had been allowed to open. I stepped back from the door, the warmth receded slightly, acknowledging distance. My partner appeared in the hallway behind me. "You feel it too?" she said. Nodded. "We were never supposed to go down there," she continued, "but we were also never supposed to stay." The house creaked softly, not threatening, not angry, almost relieved. That was when I noticed the stairs, not the ones going down, the ones going up. The attic hatch at the end of the hallway was open. Neither of us remembered opening it. Cold air drifted downward from above, clean, empty, a path. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Terramouth.